Have we reached some state of age reversal technology that truly works?
We can cure diseases and injuries that have never been cured before. And so imagine in 10 years, you just take a pill for 4 weeks and you get younger.
Why do we age?
The epigenome is the issue because going through sperm and an egg and fertilization resets the epigenome. But the good news is we've figured out a way to safely reset that without having to clone yourself. We've gone from the idea that, we just take a supplement or we do some exercise to slow down aging. Now we're talking about the ability to truly reset the body, reset all of the cells in the body to be young again. A teenager today will live into the 22nd century.
Now that's a moonshot, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome to Moonshots, everybody. Today's episode is delivering on a State of the Union on age reversal, focusing on one of my favorite moonshots, longevity. We'll be discussing epigenetic reprogramming, when we might reach longevity escape velocity, and the role of AI in our longevity quest. My guest here is a dear friend, a brilliant scientist, Dr. David Sinclair, professor at Harvard Medical School, author of Lifespan, one of my favorite books. We'll talk about what comes next from David's authorship, and one of the leading thinkers in the realm of age reversal, epigenetics, and longevity science. We'll discuss what's here on the near term, how you can support it, how you can be involved in it, how you can benefit from it. We'll also discuss why at age 55, David looks like he's 35. I believe we're living during the most extraordinary times in human history, and if you want to see more of this future, if you want additional decades in your life, this is the episode for you. All right, let's jump in with Dr. David Sinclair and a whole download on the state of age reversal. David, welcome, buddy.
Hey, Peter, it's good to be back.
It's good to have you back.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm having a blast. I am more focused on my health than I ever have been.
You're looking really good. I was commenting on your biceps
Yeah,
right now. That's why I'm wearing a jacket here, because
Yeah,
I
right.
don't have them.
I think, and we can talk about this, that in fact, muscle mass and exercise still remains one of the primary pro-longevity drugs out there.
Absolutely, yeah.
And, we'll get into the details of what the best state of the art is and what's coming because, eating right, sleep, diet, all of these things can only get you so far. And then the question is, can we turn back the clock of time? So here's my opener for you. It's 10 years from now. It's 2035. Have we reached some state of age reversal technology that truly works? How well does it work? How often are you taking this treatment? And what does it cost? Give me a vision of the future here.
Right. Well,
I'm not asking for promises. I'm asking for your best guess.
Yeah, sure. I'm not shy to talk about what I think is coming.
Yeah.
And as I wrote in my book, Lifespan, I predicted a future where we would have wearables and we would have video conferences with our doctors and you could order medicines online. And I thought that was going to take 15 years, and it happened in 3. And so sometimes I underestimate what we're actually looking at. So here's what I see. So I sit on the front row of the future, right, for this longevity.
The bleeding edge, I would say.
Yeah, and so
sure.
I want to share my thoughts with the listeners. What I'm seeing in my lab and labs that are competing with us or collaborating with us is something quite remarkable. And the pace of change is making my head spin off. And I'm an optimist, but I just can't comprehend right now how fast things are going. So let's just go back a few years and then we'll project into the future. Going back a few years, so 2017, it was just a theory that we could reverse aging. Even the word reverse, and still to some extent, is abhorrent to my colleagues. But we proved that, and published in 2020, that you can reverse most aspects of aging by reprogramming cells, which we'll talk about. And that changes everything. If my information theory of aging is correct, which is, we'll talk about the idea that you don't just lose information as you get older, like software corruption, you can actually reset that. If that's true, and it looks like it is, then it changes everything, because we've gone from the idea that, we just take a supplement or we do some exercise to slow down aging. That's basic. That should be on everyone's protocol. But now we're talking about the ability to truly reset the body, reset all of the cells in the body to be young again. And not just slightly, but by 50, 75, 80, 90%. And this isn't science fiction. We do this in my lab. My graduate students are doing this all the time. We talk like this in my lab, whereas outside it's like, what are you talking about? How do you reverse aging? But what we do is we use a set of genes that are normally only on in embryos. We turn them on in adult tissues, mice and monkeys, and we can cure diseases and injuries that have never been cured before, even blindness. And so we published that in 2020. And since then, what are we now? We're at the
5 years later.
middle of 2025 currently. What I see is that with the advances of AI, and we're doing a lot of AI in my lab, which I'm happy to share.
Yeah.
Things are going so fast. Now we're doing experiments in a matter of a month that would take hundreds of thousands of years to do. As you can probably imagine, trillions of molecules coming through screening virtually. And so we're coming up with alternatives to this gene therapy that we published in 2020. To ask me, first of all, how much might it cost? Well, right now, the technology, which is going into humans next year in January, hopefully.
This is with Life Biosciences?
Correct. So Life Biosciences has proven that it works, this reversal of aging in the optic nerve to cure a variety of ailments in the eye. And we chose the eye because for business reasons mainly. So we're going to treat glaucoma and stroke in the eye, called Nion. And this is a gene therapy. So gene therapies typically cost $300,000-$400,000 per eye.
Or it could be as much as $2 million for gene therapy, right?
Yeah.
For a rare disease. Yeah.
It's a lot. And the reason is there's a lot of hurdles to get through to get to the market, and just producing this stuff is expensive, costing us more than $10 million just to make the first batch to go into humans. But you know, my lab is in existence to make this for everybody. We're not here to charge as much as we can. We're here to make it, hopefully, eventually pennies on the dollar every time someone takes a pill. So what we've been doing since the last, 5 years is to try to bring that cost down. And using AI, we're now at a point where we've got molecules that really would only cost $100 to make or less for a month's course.
For a month's course, like $3 a day.
Yeah. And we're seeing that those work really well in mouse studies to reset an old animal's physiology within just a matter of 4 weeks. So this holiday season, we did a Hail Mary experiment. We gave them just orally this cocktail, and we weren't expecting anything, but we thought, why don't we just measure how fit and healthy they are? And all the mice that were on the treatment and not the controls ended up behaving and being physiologically younger. And then when we tested their biological age, which you can do with real quantitative tests, they were younger as well. And that's just giving them this stuff Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 4 weeks.
Wow.
So now we want to do a lifespan study, if we can raise the funds to do that, and see if we can blow away the lifespan record for mice.
Every week, I study the 10 major tech metatrends that will transform industries over the decade ahead. I cover trends ranging from humanoid robots, AGI, quantum computing, transport, energy, longevity, and more. No fluff, only the important stuff that matters, that impacts our lives and our careers. If you want me to share these with you, I write a newsletter twice a week, sending it out as a short 2-minute read via email. And if you want to discover the most important metatrends 10 years before anyone else, these reports are for you. Readers include founders and CEOs from the world's most disruptive companies and entrepreneurs building the world's most disruptive companies. It's not for you if you don't want to be informed of what's coming, why it matters, and how you can benefit from it. To subscribe for free, go to demandis.com/metatrends. That's demandis.com/metatrends to gain access to trends 10 plus years before anyone else. So 2035, you're saying we will have a age reversal therapeutic working.
Well, that's where it's headed. So if you extrapolate where we are, next year, if all goes well, we'll have shown that you can reverse aging in a human, in a tissue safely. So curing blindness.
You've done this in primates already.
Yeah, it works in green monkeys really amazingly well. And some of the data is just stunning. You can map whether you reverse the age of the optic nerve in these animals. And it's looking like 95% of the age goes backwards.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
this is
amazing.
to a youthful state of the optic nerve.
and semi-permanently. This isn't that you have to keep the genes on. You can switch them off again, and which we do. We have an on-off system that we've patented and works really well. You do it for about 6 to 8 weeks, then turn it off, and the eyes stay young. They're going to age out again, but then you just turn it back on for a few weeks. That's the plan.
That's the plan. I like that plan. And what type of age reversal do you see? I mean, putting this into human terms, someone's 50 years old, they turn this on. Is it taking them back to, teenage years? Can you control how far back they would get?
Yeah, we can control it. The longer you leave it on, the younger the tissue gets.
Beautiful.
And it seems very safe. There's no untoward effects of this treatment so far in the monkeys either. But here's what I see. I see that within the next 10 years, we'll have the ability to not only use gene therapy throughout the body, and we're already working at Life Biosciences on getting away from viral delivery, which is the current one.
And just for folks to know, gene therapy has been something developed since the 80s. It ran into some troubles early on, but it's where you basically are using a virus to deliver, and typically what's called an AAV, adeno-associated virus, to deliver a set of genes into targeted cells. But that's expensive and sometimes maybe goes off target, or you don't get all the cells you want.
Well, that's the big problem with AAV, is that tissue distribution is tough. Yeah. And so we need better ways to either get those viruses evenly throughout the body, or use other things like what are called lipid nanoparticles. Those are also
like mRNA vaccines.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Though, for those that questioning what about the vaccines, maybe we won't get into that.
I know, vaccines got a bad name in the last course.
This is obviously not a vaccine. This is you deliver genetic material inside these little particles. And there's really good technologies actually. There's a company that I'm advising called Ligandal, and they use AI to find proteins that you could put on the outside of these little particles and direct them to anywhere you want them to go. So getting back to what you asked me about, what does the future look like? I think we can either go into the doctor and have an injection of that genetic material, and we become transgenic humans that we can turn on these 3 youthful Yamanaka genes, they're called. And every time we want to get rejuvenated or we have an injury, we need to heal quickly, we turn them on. How do you do that? Well, we've engineered it so you can just take an antibiotic for a few weeks. It's doxycycline. So you take a course, it's pretty safe, actually very, very safe, and you turn it on. Now that's what I can see happening with already technology that's going into humans. But if we're successful in what we're doing in my lab, these AI-generated molecules are mimicking that. So the reason for having a molecule rather than a gene therapy is not only are they cheap, you can just swallow it and they evenly go throughout the body typically. And so imagine in 10 years, you just take a pill for 4 weeks and you get younger. That's what we're headed towards. And I can see that being realistically possible in the next 10 years. In fact, I can see how this is going to happen. That's what we're working towards in my lab.
I love it. I can't wait. And I volunteer to come first. The concept of longevity escape velocity. So Ray Kurzweil, who's been a dear friend and a mentor, his prediction is that we'll reach longevity escape velocity by the end of the year 2030. And longevity escape velocity, for those who haven't heard the term, hopefully if they're listening to this podcast, they've heard it. It's the idea that at some point in the future, for every year that you're alive, science is extending your life for more than a year. And at that point, it basically departs and you're going as long as you want. I've had the conversation with a multitude of different people, and everybody's got a different guess. I just had a conversation with Demis Hassabis not long ago, and when he was on 60 Minutes, he said he foresaw the end of all disease by the end of the decade. So all disease by 2035. And then Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, at Davos said he expects that we could see a doubling of the human lifespan in 10 years' time. Those are good people to have in the same camp you are. So what do you think about longevity escape velocity? Is a concept worth thinking about? When do you think we might hit that?
I don't have a number.
Okay.
I'm actually just on the ground working as hard and fast as I can with my team. But I do think now it's feasible. There was a time in my career 5 years ago, maybe 10, I I thought this was so far into the future it wasn't worth talking about. It's all speculation. But now that the information theory of aging and the reset seems true, and that we're entering the clinic with these age reversal technologies that can be used multiple times, right? Not just once, but you can keep doing it maybe 20 times, 100 times. I think it's possible that within our lifetime we'll see such the ability to reset yourself. Now, I don't think we're going to live forever because there's always noise and information is hard to preserve indefinitely. But I do believe that we could double the human lifespan now. And I'm on record, and I've taken some flack over the years from colleagues who didn't like me saying that the first person to live to 150 has already been born. But I still stand by that because, you know, teenager today will live into the 22nd century. We have to remember that.
Yeah.
It's not about today's technology.
I have two 14-year-old boys that I keep on telling that.
Yeah, and just think about what's happened in the last 10 years. We just can't imagine what's going to be in their lifespan. And so that's why I think that it's quite possible that they will be able to live 150 or more. But for us, the question is, were we born one generation too early?
Sure.
Us in our 50s. I'm
the answer is no.
56. The answer is, actually, since I was 18, I decided, damn it, I don't want to be part of the last generation to live a normal human lifespan. That's not right. And I know it's coming, just a question of, can we do it in time for all of us? And I think the best way to ensure that we reach that point, if there is an escape velocity, is to stay healthy. And that's why we should talk today about what we can do in our lives to stay healthy into our 90s and 100, because certainly by the time you and I are 90 or 100, the technology is going to be there to reset our age.
I mean, at this exponential age and what's going on with AI, and I was with Eric Schmidt just recently in our last podcast, and he's like, we will reach digital superintelligence within the decade, right? And this is not just AGI, whatever AGI means. This is, you know, billions of fold more intelligent than human. And of course, the work going on right now of being able to model a cell in silico, we'll get there, and then we'll have a cell with David Sinclair's genome or my genome, and you know exactly which molecules activate that or don't.
Yeah.
I want to go to a basic question, which I think is important for everybody to understand the answer to, and I'd like to understand how you express it. Why do we age in the first place, right? So we have the Greenland, we have the, you know, bowhead whale lives to 200 years old. We live, you know, the Greenland shark lives to 500 years old, has pups at 200 years old, and we make it to 100 on a routinely regular basis. But why do we age? And why were there no factors selecting for us to live longer than that?
Yeah. Well, the first answer to the second question is there was no need. And evolution doesn't build things that there's no need for. And on the savannah, we were likely to die from war or infection or starvation within 50 years. So living to 100 was really not helpful. The reason why we age is debated among academics, but what I strongly believe, based on the evidence that my lab's been garnering, 25 years now, is that it's not just wear and tear. We're not just breaking down. There aren't just things going wrong, but it's all about information and entropy.
Yeah.
And that what keeps us young is that we have great information. We've got our pristine genome and our pristine epigenome, which are the structures that read the genome. And those two elements of information, they get lost over time due to noise. And we've identified some of the causes of that noise. DNA breaks of chromosomes is part of that noise. Stress on a cell. If you crush a nerve cell, it will accelerate its aging, we showed in the 2020 Nature paper. And so I think of the body not like a lump of meat now, I think of it like a computer, and the software gets corrupted over time. And then the great news is we found that there's a backup copy of that software that can be reset.
Amazing. You've not done any podcasts in the last few years, so I'm super happy to have you here. So I really want to go into what you've learned. You know, so the information theory of aging, you published that as part of your book Lifespan. Time did an amazing piece on you and the information theory of aging. So I was so happy that Mark Benioff, who owns Time, did that. It's like, yes, it's good to get the exposure for this. So let's take it a step further in explaining what that information of, what that aging theory means. And have you had any new proof points supporting that in the lab?
We've come a long way since 2020.
So just to settle things, you get 3.2 billion letters from your mom, 3.2 billion letters from your dad. That's your genome. It doesn't change over the course of your life. So as I like to ask people, like, why do you look different at 20 and 100? Well, why don't you look the same? And that genome codes for, what's the current estimate? 22,000 genes?
Yeah.
Thereabouts. So epigenetics is effectively which genes are on and which genes are off, right? As you age, if I just have this right, as you're aging, the wrong genes turn on and the wrong genes might turn off, and that's causing some of this aging effect.
I can't add a lot to that. You summed up the theory well. And I did put it in Lifespan, the book. So if anyone hasn't read Lifespan, it's all in there. And book 2, hopefully next year, will come out. But it was a risk putting it in that theory and all of our results into the book because we hadn't published it yet.
Yeah.
But since then, since 2020, when the book came out, we have published a couple of big papers, one in Nature and one in Cell. And it's really strong evidence now that the theory
is
stands up. What have we learned since? Well, we're trying to figure out how is it possible to reset a cell and get back the original structures of the epigenome. And if we were to dive into the cell, okay, let's say we're going to pierce the membrane, go inside a cell, then you swim down and then you see the nucleus. There's another membrane. There are little pores in the membrane. We can swim through those. Now we can see the chromosomes. And that's really the epigenome. And what if we unwrap those chromosomes, what we would see is the 6 feet of DNA that's in the cell, of every cell. But the DNA is wrapped up in proteins. And that wrapping is important for 2 reasons. One is that's how you fit 6 feet into a microscopic cell, but also whether it's wrapped tightly or not determines whether a gene is on or off. And if it's tightly bundled, we call that silent chromatin or heterochromatin. And a lot of the genes you want to be switched off because you don't want a liver-specific gene on in the brain, and vice versa. So there are these bundles of DNA and loops of DNA.
And when it's bundled tightly, it can't be read, it can't be transcribed.
Because it's hidden, exactly.
Yes,
it's tightly bundled. And actually, one of the big clues that this was relevant to aging was when I was in the lab of Lenny Guarenti as a 25-year-old postdoc. And as a team, we uncovered that there were these silent information regulator genes called the sirtuins, and their job is to bundle up DNA. And at the time, we're thinking, what the heck has bundling DNA got to do with aging? We were expecting to see antioxidant genes and telomere extending genes, but we found these silent information regulators, and that's why information has been key to my research ever since. But getting back to what happens during aging is that these bundles and these loops, they change over time, in part because the cell loses the ability to bundle them and you get these loops open up, but also because the epigenome's changing all the time. Our genome is stable. We don't change our genome much. And in fact, mutations are not as abundant as we thought. And I could take one of your cells and clone you. And even though your cells are old, we can start new life with those cells.
I love that, right? And so I know one set of experiments were done actually took cells from 23 sequential mice clones that showed, you could take a cell, clone the mouse, grow it out, take a cell, clone the mouse, grow it out. And I think they got bored and stopped at the end
of 20. And they're still healthy, right? These mice aren't getting old.
Yeah.
But if the old theory is correct, that mutations cause aging, then you just end up getting older and older babies.
Right.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So therefore, I'm very convinced so far that the epigenome is the issue, because going through sperm and an egg and fertilization resets the epigenome. So you can start life again. But the good news is we've figured out a way to safely reset that without having to clone yourself. So think of it like that, as resetting the system, like going through conception without having to be reborn.
Amazing. So the control of the epigenome, I know, for example, skin has a multitude of different proteins, collagen molecules. And as you grow older, one of the reasons your skin ages is the genes those collagen molecules get silenced. And so one could imagine unsilencing them
So we do that in the lab all the time.
Yeah.
We have a skin project. So yeah, you don't have to imagine it.
Okay,
I
great.
will show you. So
I can't wait for the product to come out.
we think skin is a good model.
Yeah.
It also may help some people with wound healing and how they look. But we actually grow bundles of human skin and hair in the lab. And for those of you who are queasy, you may not want to hear this, but we open up that organoid of human tissue that we grow. And these are engineered to be able to drive aging forwards and backwards, so we can study that. But we put them in the backs of mice. And now it's pretty funny. You can see the
And the mice give the blood supply and keep it alive.
Yeah, but you get human black hair growing out of the back of a mouse. Now we can age that hair, make it gray, make it old. And now we test if we can reverse it. And so far it looks good.
Well, if you can do that, I think you get another huge winner. I'll never forget at the Abundance Summit, which I've had you speak at a couple of times, and you're going to be back in 2026. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Eric Schmidt will be our opener. You'll be our closer that year. So that'll be fun. I remember I had a biotech longevity scientist on stage, and he was talking about his technology, how it could cure cancer, it could, increase the health of particular organs, and he's giving this entire list of what it could do, and then he says, and it can grow hair, and the crowd erupts in applause. Right? It's like,
yeah, I remember that. So people do care about skin and hair, but we're learning fundamentals about what makes cells old and how do we reverse that, and skin is just one.
So the original data set that that is there that helps the cell remember its original state. Have you found out where that lives?
Oh, well, the answer is probably, though I'm going to wait to reveal that in detail. But I have some very good students working on that right now. And I wrote a review in one of the Nature journals about this. So if anyone's interested, you can go see my ideas. But basically what we need for this to be real is there's a memory of youth in every old cell. So what is that memory? It's got to be probably something physical. It could be a chemical modification of the DNA.
Okay.
Chemical modifications of the proteins.
Like a methylation or
could be methylation. Could be something else.
Mm-hmm.
Could be some other type of novel genetic material. Or it could just be proteins that permanently stick to the chromosome and stay there until we need them to reset.
I figure people would have seen this by now.
Oh, well. What I can say is people have bumped into this and ignored it because they didn't think it was important.
I read through all of your tweets as we got ready for this, and I love one of these. Says, your cells remember how to be young. We just need to remind them.
Exactly. And my students are great, and they are
And
really
I came to your
this.
lab was it a month ago, and I met many of them, and they are brilliant.
Yeah, they're like my children, actually. And on some days, I love them more than my own children. But yeah, they're a very special group, and they are working so hard to change the world and make these medicines a reality.
Yeah, and we'll talk about, the insanity of funding cuts in a little bit, and the importance of the work that you're doing. So anything else you want to add on the information theory? Do you have experiments planned that will just nail this down? How does a theory become like just, accepted gospel, in fact?
I think it happens at one funeral at a time. But I've been very pleasantly surprised that the theory, which is called ITOA for short, ITOA,
okay,
is being well accepted by the community. And there's more and more evidence every few weeks about this. I think what'll really convince people is when we disrupt the observer, we call it. So this backup copy based on Claude Shannon. I'm a big fan of his, and
yes,
you know that. And so for those of you who don't know about Claude Shannon, just briefly, Claude was a scientist at MIT and Bell Labs who figured out the information theory of communication. So the reason we have an internet is because of him. And the same mathematics and concepts I poached and used them for aging. And so the information theory of aging is all about the preservation of information and having a backup copy, which at the time he called it the observer. So we still talk in my lab about finding the observer, and the observer keeps a backup copy of the original signal. And if you lose it, by the time it gets to the sender, you can go back and retrieve what's missing from the observer. And so what we think is that the observer has a physical, as I mentioned, a state. It's got information there. We think we found that information. It's novel biology. And if we show that breaking that system prevents age reversal from happening, then I think that the community will believe us.
Love it. Love it. So we just launched about 18 months ago something called the $101 million HealthSpan X Prize.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're in the process of registering for that competition?
We are registered.
Oh, you're registered. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So we've had like 625 teams from around the world. And for those who haven't heard me speak about it before, this is an X Prize, one of our largest. We raised $157 million. GSK is a big sponsor of it as well, but our primary two sponsors are gentleman Chip Wilson, the founder of Lululemon, who has a muscular dystrophy called FSHD, and he put in $36 million, and then a group out of Saudi Arabia called Hevolution, think health and evolution, they put in $40 million. I'm a multi-million-dollar donor. We have a lot of incredible people who are supporting this, and the goal is, can we get the smartest people in the world, including you, working on reversing the loss of cognition, immune, and muscle. And I'm amazed the variety of different approaches, and I'm excited that your lab will be participating. But we're seeing like a huge range. I mean, from cellular medicines to gene therapies to. So I want to ask you, beyond your own work, the state of the union for, age reversal, for longevity, is it still an uphill battle in the scientific world, in the funding world? Because it used to be a stigma if you said you're doing age reversal work. It was like, oh, this person's insane.
Yes.
Has that gotten better?
Not much.
Huh.
Especially age reversal. There's still the old school in my field that doesn't like the word reversal. But it's somewhat better that at least saying that you work on longevity isn't a stigma. And there's a lot more funding outside of academia for this, of course. But in academia, there's less money than ever to study this topic, which is surprising given how much potential it has to change medicine.
Yeah, the interesting thing is a lot of the funding from this is coming from the crypto community. There's a great alignment between, people who believe in crypto as Bitcoin, long-term vision for capital as well, and longevity. We've seen Jeff Bezos and Yuri Milner back Altos. We've seen Brian Armstrong back New Limit. We've seen Sam Altman back Retro. So it's good to see some of these multi-billionaires backing these things. I mean, I, for one, if I had that level of capital, I'd be backing like all of them.
Yeah, well, one or more of these companies could dominate pharmaceuticals in the 21st century.
I mean, it is a multi-trillion-dollar marketplace.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm on stages, and perhaps you are too, and I ask, okay, you're 70 or 80 years old. This is a room of family offices, wealthy individuals, and you're slowly degrading, as people do in the last decades. And someone comes up to you and says, listen, here is a therapeutic. It will give you an extra 20 healthy years, not 20 healthy years right now, like where you were, in your 50s. How much of your wealth would you give for that? And if they're honest, it would be the vast majority, 80+%. And when I think about that, that is, tens of trillions of dollars. Mm. So I think it's a giant market. I'm hopeful that we'll see a lot more funding coming in from people, both philanthropically and investment-wise.
Me too. Actually, the story I like is if you ask someone in their 30s, what would you do to trade with Warren Buffett?
Yeah.
No one says they'd trade with him, no matter how much money he has, because he's older.
Yeah.
So the years you have are worth everything to you.
Yeah.
More than money.
Agreed. Agreed. Everyone, as you know, earlier this year, I was on stage at the Abundance Summit with some incredible individuals: Kathy Wood, Mo Gadat, Vinod Khosla, Brett Adcock, and many other amazing tech CEOs. I'm always asked, hey, Peter, where can I see the summit? Well, I'm finally releasing all the talks. You can access my conversation with Kathy Wood and Mo Gadot for free at diamandis.com/summit. That's the talk with Kathy Wood and Mo Gadot for free at diamandis.com/summit. Enjoy. I'll ask my team to put the links in the show notes below. What else are you seeing out there that could be a viable age reversal therapeutic? Are you seeing any particular, without naming necessarily labs or anything, but approaches?
Well, there's a few. So I work on epigenetic reprogramming at Life Biosciences, and these companies you just mentioned, they're also chasing us. So we started a little earlier than they did, but they're trying to catch up. So that's a big area, and why I'm hopeful that one or more of us is going to succeed. So that's a whole. I think that's, for me, the most promising. That's why I'm putting my own money into it as well. What else is important? Well, I think that there's factors from the blood. So we know that plasmapheresis, exchanging your plasma, has some benefits, and looks looking better all the time.
Like therapeutic plasma exchange.
That's right.
Yeah, I've done that 5 times now. Right.
Yeah, I think I've done it maybe a few times, but I really believe in it because there's a lot of animal data and some human data coming that looks good. But what is it about that that's beneficial? We're actually trying to turn that into a pill, but stay tuned for that because it'll be easier than sitting with a machine for an hour. But that sounds promising, right? That there's something in our blood that's keeping us old or fresh that comes in that makes us young. There's some factors already companies are working on. But I think there might be a few really good ones that you could take as a drip and rejuvenate.
There was a promise of GDF-11 years ago. I mean, the problem is a lot of these companies, get funded with seed capital, but, being a biology medical company is expensive and they run out of capital.
Yeah, it is. And I think there's something that we haven't found yet that's going to be more rejuvenative. So we're screening these proteins in the blood and genes that do epigenetic reprogramming. And so you could imagine that there's a peptide, perhaps, or a protein that is circulating in the blood, and when it circulates, it triggers these genes that give rejuvenation. So we're looking for that. Stem cells, it's been a bit slow, but we're starting to see a resurgence of stem cell interest and approval. So the FDA now approves certain types of stem cell therapy.
Yeah, and we've just seen states begin to become much more lenient. So Florida is in the process of passing regulation to allow you to do stem cell treatments in state. I think it was Utah is there already.
Yeah.
Other places, which is great because, before this, you'd go to Panama or Costa Rica or Antigua to do it, which is fine, except you don't have your medical team around you and you're operating ex-US.
Right. So presumably Fountain Life is going to get into that.
Yeah, Fountain Life, we have 2 centers right now in Naples and Orlando, and we're opening up Miami, and those will all have hopefully the most advanced stem cell therapeutics available, as well as other cellular medicine like NK cell supplementation.
Yeah, which kill cancer cells.
Yeah,
Amazing.
And natural killer cells, your innate immune system, kill cancers. We're always developing cancers, and we depend on our immune system to find them and kill them. And the same NK cells also hunt down, virally infected cells.
Yeah. Well, we're working on a new type of stem cell, a very rare type.
Okay.
We should talk because there's a stem cell that actually turns into the tissue that it lands in, and that's different than current stem cells.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
I think that area has promise too. Senescent cell killing chemicals, somewhat promising. I saw Altos bought a company or is merging with a company that works on that. It's been a little slow, a little bit disappointing with Unity.
Yeah, I was so surprised. So Unity Biosciences goes public, and then their data comes back and they crash, and they're slowly eking their way back.
It wasn't a complete failure, just they didn't reach the endpoint. So there's a lot of variability, so that's part of the issue. But I think they'll keep pushing on, and they'll find something. These senescent cells are important. We know from a lot of studies that if you delete these cells, you can improve metabolism and a bunch of other things.
Can you use epigenetic reprogramming to move senescent cells back to normal, healthy cells?
We have a project in my lab on that, and so far it looks like yes, we can do both rejuvenation of senescent cells so that they don't cause havoc. So they normally cause a lot of inflammation and even cancer. So we can stop that with reprogramming. But in some cases, we can even rejuvenate them so they grow again. Normally they're sitting and they don't grow.
Just for folks, there's something called the Hayflick limit, right? Which is, was it 50 cell replications thereabouts? That a cell should replicate 50 times and then have the decency to die. And if it doesn't, it can become a cancer cell or a senescent cell, which is pumping out these inflammatory factors.
Yeah, and so you can either kill them or you can cure them. And so it looks like we can cure them, but we're not sure if that's a good thing. We have to figure out if curing a senescent cell will just give us more problems. But at least in tissue culture, it looks like reprogramming does work in that regard. And also somebody might be asking, if you reprogram a cancer cell, what happens?
Oh yeah, fascinating.
I have good news on that front.
Okay.
One of my graduate students has been working on this for a few years, and we have a lot of evidence that many types of cancers are killed by reprogramming, which is interesting if you think about it.
Oh, so you have a cancer cell, it's growing, you've discovered it at stage 3 or stage 4, and it's through different parts of the body. You hit it with an epigenetic reprogramming cocktail.
Right.
And it has a decency to die?
Well, I think it freaks out and realizes, it wakes up from its zombie-like state and says, oh my goodness, my chromosomes are messed up. I better kill myself. Because one of the ways to become a cancer cell
honorable of it
is to ignore its DNA damage. They're filled with DNA damage.
Yeah.
And when we wake them up, so if you wake up a normal cell, it goes back and it gets younger. But if you wake up a cancer cell, it looks like it realizes it should kill itself, and it does.
Amazing. That's crazy amazing. All right, so I want to dive into a couple of your companies that I'm tracking. I've had them on my stages at the Abundance Platinum event, which I do every fall. For those of you interested, David and I will be together in Boston. Our Abundance Platinum trip this year is the last 5 days of September. If you want more information, you can go to abundance360.com/longevity. Life Biosciences and Metro Biotech. Two very cool companies. Let's talk about each of those.
Should we start with Life Biosciences?
Let's do it.
This is the more recent one. This was founded in 2017-18. And they're the ones that have shown in monkeys that you can basically cure blindness and get vision back. And so the first studies will be in January if all goes well.
So you've gone originally from mice to monkeys, so non-human primates, and it worked as expected in both cases?
It worked better than expected, actually. And so far, there's no signs of any reason why we shouldn't go into humans next year. It's going to depend on the FDA, but we're planning to submit what's called an IND shortly.
Right.
And
how big
hopefully
will
by this time next year, we'll know if it's working, because the studies are straight into patients.
And so is it a single injection? What is it?
Oh, good question. It's a single injection. So with macular degeneration, it's very common to get one injection or more. You don't feel it, it's nothing bad. And what this virus does, so the AAV you mentioned, goes into the nerves at the back of the eye, and we just turn it on by giving the patient some antibiotic, doxycycline.
Doxycycline, right?
Yeah. And
which is, by the way, is just the trigger that turns on that segment of DNA. It just
so we put in those 3 genes inside the virus. So we normally have these genes. We're not changing the genome, but by putting these 3 genes in the virus, we can control them better. And now they're what's called dox-inducible. And we could have used any chemical. It doesn't have to be dox, but dox is
such a safe
an
drug.
Easy way.
Yeah.
And it's been in research for decades, so we chose that. But so by this time next year, we should know if it can improve vision in people that have gone blind either from a stroke in their eye or from glaucoma.
Amazing. How big will your phase 1 be, you think?
It's a small study, right? You start with 1, and then 2, then 10.
Yeah.
And we're just raising money to go into our phase 2 study already.
Awesome. Any other elements of Life Biosciences besides that specific?
Well, some of it's, I'm bound by confidentiality, but I can say in general that the company that's phase 1 for the company. Let's call it stage 1, not to confuse it with clinical trials. Stage 1 is proof of concept in the eye. Does it work? 2 shots on goal, 2 diseases. Stage 2 for the company, which is already underway, is using AI to convert to chemicals, so you have a pill instead, or an LNP, which is the lipid nanoparticles, so you don't use viruses. Whole body rejuvenation.
Nice.
They're already doing that. And then, so stage 3 would be going into multiple diseases and eventually whole body rejuvenation.
All right, so let's pause right there and focus in on this. So I think one of the realizations is for those who develop a disease, when you were younger, you didn't have the disease. And so if you're able to actually induce some type of age reversal, does that cure the disease?
In mice, it's working great. So for instance, glaucoma is an age-related disease. You make the eye young again in the animal, the disease goes away. The body can heal itself. And that's been really not the approach of medicine as we know it. Medicine, as you know, you're a trained doctor, is, we treat the symptoms of this disease and slow it or cure it, but we don't use the body's own healing properties. Now we've uncovered the ultimate healing property. We believe that we've uncovered the ability that salamanders have to regrow limbs and fish grow new tails. It's a similar process. And we just turn on these embryonic genes and now we get youth and now the body can heal itself. So besides vision, what else have we tried? Well, in my lab, we've done Alzheimer's disease, cured.
Wow.
Some muscle diseases, cured. ALS, pretty cured. And that's important because in my partner's family, we have ALS. So we're rushing to fix that one. We published it with a collaborator that we could alleviate multiple sclerosis with this as well. So far, we have not seen a disease or an injury that could not be effectively treated with this therapy. Now, doesn't mean everything can be cured, but what it's telling me is that diseases that we've been treating, really we've just been addressing the symptoms, not the underlying cause. And finally now, we're treating what's really underlying most diseases, which is the universal aging process itself.
And the challenge is today's medical system is built all around just treating the symptoms. It's built around keeping you alive and treating what's possible, but not curing you. I mean, it's really quite insane. Whole body rejuvenation, again, by taking a set of pills. So we don't see like one arm get younger than the other arm. We don't see any of that going on. So the notion is that if you're going to be able to reverse the aging of a particular system, skin or muscle or hepatic, that it's going to hit all tissues, all organs?
Well, that's the ultimate goal, and we're already testing in mice how that works. There was another lab, our collaborators out of George Church's lab, where we collaborating with George. You know George.
Yeah, I love George.
He's in my department at Harvard. We collaborated initially on building these viruses, and they did the experiment that I thought was really interesting, which was just to inject the virus not just into the eye, but inject it into the vein of a mouse. Mm-hmm. And if we're right, the mice should live longer. And even though this was a Hail Mary experiment, not optimized, those old mice that they treated lived another 109% longer.
Huh. Okay, so I have to ask you this question at this point. We talk about mice. Mice are the lab mice are experimented on everything, and a typical lab mouse lives how long? 24 months, 36 months?
Yeah, 28 months.
28 months. Okay. Why aren't we seeing mice that are living not 2 years but 10 years at this point? Well, what's going on there?
Because I think we were taking the wrong approach. What happened to the field, unfortunately, in the 2000s?
And by the way, I just noted this real quick for reference. In June of 1982, Richard Weinrod and Roy Walford at UCLA showed that life extension of 30 to 40% was possible through calorie restriction to get a mouse to what is currently the record of 53 months. So you just have to starve the mouse and you can almost double its lifespan, which I don't think anybody here wants to do.
No, it'll certainly make life feel longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, those guys showed early on that you can extend the lifespan through diet, but it's not pleasant.
Yeah.
But now we're seeing combination drugs. There was one published last week that combination of 2 anti-cancer drugs could extend lifespan of mice 30%. So we're approaching the same levels of extension as we saw with those early studies. But ultimately, we want to make mice live 5 times longer, 10 times longer.
You think we'll get there?
Well, I
don't care about the mouse living longer. I just want some additional evidence that
exactly.
we moved the needle.
Yeah, Well, our field has made lower organisms live 10 times longer.
Sure.
So what is it about mammals that's harder? I think we were just taking the wrong approach. We were saying, oh, let's try this molecule that turns on this longevity pathway or that longevity pathway. Most of these longevity pathways that we worked on starting in the 2000s with molecules to tweak them, we were just slowing aging. We weren't reversing aging. I think with this new age reversal approach and these technologies, the gene therapy and these new cocktails that we have in my lab, we have a much better chance of being able to repeatedly reverse aging and get them out to a lot, maybe 5 years. And I'm excited about this because remember I said over the holiday break,
yes,
within 4 weeks, we made them basically young mice again.
Yes.
We want to try this over the lifespan, and we've got a good chance, I think, of
can't wait.
blowing
When
the
might
record
you
away.
do that? When might you run that experiment?
Well, as soon as we have the money to do that, right? So let's.
All right.
See if
Now,
we can do that.
we're gonna talk about money in just a little bit. I do want to hit on a basic idea that I want people to understand, which is the idea of these 7 sirtuin genes or these proteins, and the battle between DNA repair and epigenetic drift, right? So if I understand from reading your book and speaking to you, what we have are these 7 sirtuins that are conserved across almost all life,
Yeah, even bacteria. Yeah.
even bacteria. And as they have 2 functions in the cell, right? One is to repair DNA damage, and one is to make sure that the right genes are on and the right genes are off. Is that
That's
basically
right.
the case?
Yeah.
And as we get older, and I'm pitching this back to you because this is how I explain on stage, we're accumulating some DNA damage, and of course the sirtuins are going back and forth between these 2 functions. And as we get older, our internal NAD levels drop by as much as 50%, right? And NAD is sort of the energy currency in the cell that powers these sirtuins. And so if they're having less energy and having to go back and forth between DNA repair and epigenetic drift, our epigenome loses and we get aging. Is that correct?
Mostly.
Okay, correct me where I'm off.
Even without the decline in NAD, we have problems. And we showed this in a mouse that we published in 2023 in the journal Cell, was that even if we distracted the sirtuins from their main role of silencing genes, when a mouse was young, that was enough to make them age 50% faster. And these were called the ICE mice,
Okay.
the inducible changes of the epigenome mice. And so we created non-mutagenic cuts, and that distracted the sirtuins from where they were on the chromosomes, and they went elsewhere and often didn't come back to where they belonged. And that just for 3 weeks was enough to trigger the domino effect of aging in those animals. And they didn't just look old, they were old by every measure. Their tissues were old, their physiology was old, their DNA methylation clocks were older. And then we also did a little experiment to reverse their tissues at the end, just for some fun.
Just for some fun. Your lab must be a blast to work in. I wish I could go back to my medical school days and come and knock on your door and volunteer. Let's talk about AI in your research, because that's new since we last really went deep. I mean, the explosion of the AI field and understanding, especially as applied to basic sciences. So tell me, how are you using it? What's it doing for you?
Well, it's central to everything now. We barely run an experiment without consulting our AI agents. But let me tell you about 2 areas I think it'd be interesting. The first is in visualization. We've developed algorithms. It's called Dash AI. I forget what it stands for, but basically the idea is that we can visualize old and young cells using a microscope and tell very quickly within nanoseconds what age those cells are just by looking at them.
Fascinating.
And that's important
Sure.
as we are screening for genes and molecules that control and reverse aging.
Measuring what matters. Of course.
Yeah. And so we have a curve that stretches from 20-year-old cells or cells from 20-year-old skin cells to 93-year-olds. And within nanoseconds, the computer looks at the image and can say, all right, those cells were 93 last week and now they're 20.
Huh.
And so we have chemicals that do that.
So that
now.
just gives you super rapid screening of all kinds of chemicals.
Yeah. So that's using robotics and AI visualization. That's one aspect.
Yeah.
But really what blows me away is the other part, which is we believe we've found the 4 main levers to reverse aging. What I mean by that is that there are enzymes that control the epigenome.
Yeah.
There are 4 main pathways, and you want to pull back the lever, so inhibit 3 of those and push 1. And that combination is the winning one. And so we have chemicals that do that, but they're cocktails. And we've published some of these. These cocktails work on these 4 levers. But what we really want is just one simple, safe molecule, because it's easier to develop as a medicine, that does those 4 things. Now, if you'd said to even a pharmaceutical company with $1 billion, could you do that? They would have said probably 5 years ago, no way.
Yeah.
Right? Doing one of those lever pulls is hard enough.
Which have been decades and billions of dollars.
Yeah, optimizing and physical screening and making the molecules by hand as chemists. But now we can just take all known molecules and virtually screen them in a couple of months against all those 4 targets and come up.
And so when you say take all known molecules, we're talking about actually physically doing this in a petri dish?
No, goodness. That would take millions of years.
So what are you actually doing?
Yeah. Well, we virtually dock them into the enzymes.
And the AI is precise enough to create an actual, sort of physical model.
Oh, for sure. I mean, Demis and his team solved all of the structures, as you know.
Of course.
And so that made this all possible. Now we can just do the crunch, number crunching.
Amazing.
And so normally this docking would be done by hand, by a person, would take days to do. And now it's just done like this. And you can do billions, actually trillions.
Oh.
And there are libraries of virtual molecules, but also there are actually physical libraries. So what's happened is we've now got a set of 100 top candidates, some synthetic, some natural, and we can just order them like you would on Amazon, bring in your chemicals and put them through our AI-assisted screening.
Crazy. So earlier you said it was going to be a cocktail of 4 molecules that you're trying now.
Yeah, we published 6 and we're now down to 3.
3, okay.
And if all goes well,
you believe
we've
you
got
can get it
1.
down to 1?
Well, we're testing them now and they look good so far.
Amazing. I want to turn to a subject that is that's a bit painful and recent and very impactful about this longevity future, which is funding. It's been a travesty of the massive cuts in science, and I know you've been hit hard by it. How hard have you been hit?
Well, I spend more time as a psychiatrist now than a doctor, than a scientist. It's tough. The poor kids in my lab who are innocent in this are really suffering.
What percentage of your lab is funded through government grants?
The majority is government funded, and all of those grants were terminated.
100% of those grants were terminated?
Yeah, they're all gone.
Any explanation as to why?
Harvard's in the target of federal government.
It's not just the Doge activities, it's Harvard's being specifically...
They're singled out for quote-unquote anti-Semitism, but taking it out on my poor students who are like my own kids, it's rough.
Well, they're taking it out on the rest of us too. If the science gets delayed by a year, that just puts, another percentage of the population at risk of dying.
Well, we may never know what medicines will never exist in our lifetime because of this, unfortunately, because the Harvard Medical School is the crown jewel of research in the world. And to stop all that research. I met one of my colleagues in the cafeteria last week, and he's a leading guy in his field. And I said, what are you going to do now that you've got no money? He goes, I had a good run. I'll go home. I might write a book.
Wow.
It's done. He's over. His career is ended. He's done. So I'm not giving up. I'm going to fight. This is too important to give up.
As you should, and I want to help you. One of the things I realized is probably the single thing that the U.S. could do to solve the U.S. debt is give people an extra 20 years of health.
Yeah, absolutely. We've crunched the numbers.
I know.
Right?
So talk about that. There was a study at Harvard, London School of Business, and Oxford on that. What did the study say? What was the financial implication here?
Yeah, so I teamed up with a couple of great economists, and they calculated that in the US, extending healthy lifespan just by 1 year, by keeping people out of nursing homes and giving them back to the community and making them productive, was a value to the US economy of $86 trillion. That's just 1 year. That's doable.
36 or 86?
Did I say 36?
No, you said 86. Is it? I think
It
it's
is 86.
It is 86 billion.
No, 86 trillion.
Wait,
We will fact check that.
okay.
But and then it was 366 or 7 trillion for 10 years.
Ah.
Yeah, it's a lot. These numbers are staggering. This is like the defense budget.
I mean, this is people staying active and generating in the economy and not having to pay out on healthcare costs.
That's what it is. And then people spend money, right? They're traveling and they're buying things. You know, I use my father as a role model, and you know, he's on our program or whatever. He's doing well. The update on him is he's turning 86, and when most men at his age are in the ground or on the shelf, he is as young as he was when he was in his 40s, right?
Yeah.
He acts, moves, travels, thinks, enjoys his life like we do, and he's not slowing down at all. He still drives at night without glasses. You know, and he has to take a test because he's old, but you know, he passes with flying colors. So think about if the population on average was like him.
Yeah.
What kind of a world would it be? These people are valuable. Every life is valuable. You can even put dollars on every life's value. It's millions.
I tell people, you know, if you're 80, but you feel like you're 50, you've got all of your relationships. Are you going to want to retire, or are you going to want to just, you know, you go for the next thing? I mean, the reason people retire is they're in pain, they're out of energy, or they're forced to by regulation.
Yeah, or you don't like your job, but there's skill badicals, and we live in a world where you can reinvent yourself pretty quickly. And so I look forward to people like my dad, who started a new career in his 80s.
Yeah.
He was now supervising clinical trials, and he's giving back to the communities. He's living with one of my nephews, who's raising my dad at 86, nearly 86, is raising his nephew. It should be the other way around, right? But now he's so healthy, he's taking care of his grandkid. And, you know, it's better that way, because imagine life the other way around. And you don't actually have to imagine it. Just go to Japan, where people our age are taking care of not just their parents, sometimes their grandparents, and their kids, and sometimes their grandkids. That's a huge burden on a generation to take care of both the people who are sick, older than them, and the young people who either don't have jobs or need help in other ways.
David, how much funding did your lab lose in total?
It was millions, and we're just at the beginning of some of these grants. And one of the grants, by the way, was a career grant given to Kelly Rich, a postdoc, who has actually been speaking out in the media as to the cruelty of these cuts to her and the lab. She was working on ALS in a race to try and help Serena's mom.
Wow.
And we were making good progress. We showed that these reprogramming chemicals and genes could treat neuromuscular disorders in mice, and we're not that far away with AI of having something that she could take as a pill, perhaps some natural molecules. And to have the funding cut without really any explanation was more than a blow to us. And so we've lost a lot of money and also the spirit to go on.
We have a lot of amazing people that watch this podcast, a lot of people who have made their wealth in digital assets and who are entrepreneurs. And I think there's a very close connection between those who are deep in crypto and in Bitcoin and Ethereum and those who love longevity. I mean, there's just
people.
They go in connection. So I want to do three things. And I mentioned to you beforehand, I want to do this, and this is not something you asked for, something I want to do. There are, and I'll speak into camera here, there are three ways that I want to invite you to join me in supporting David's research and his lab. Again, this is not a request he made. This is something I feel compelled to do because I care deeply about this work. I care deeply about having it available personally, for my family, and for all of us. And hopefully what you've seen here so far convinces you that there is real value that's being created. And honestly, for the small amount of money that you spend, it's a travesty, because it does compare a few $1 million to trillions of dollars of upside, let alone lives being saved. So there is a link we're going to put in the show notes that is to donate directly to his lab at Harvard. It's tax deductible. You can donate from $50 to $1,000, and welcome you to do that. And I'm sure Dave would be super grateful for it. The second thing is we're going to put up a QR code here for a moment. You can pause the video or go to the YouTube video if you're listening to this on Audible to see it. We'll also put the links in the show notes below where you can link to a Coinbase account where you can donate stablecoin, Bitcoin, or Ethereum. And I welcome you to. I hope you guys shock us and surprise us with your generosity. If you're one of the many Bitcoin whale billionaires out there listening to this podcast, I mean, imagine what your donation could do. It could move the needle here in an extraordinary way. I always like to lead whenever I'm asking for any kind of donation. So something I'm proposing, I just proposed it to David before this, is the creation of a program called Friends of Sinclair Lab. And David, we talked about this. This would be for, I want to keep it intimate enough so that the people who donate at this level get the benefit of building a relationship with you and getting early access to knowledge. But the idea here would be people who donate $50,000, and I'm going to be the first to step up and donate $50K. Historically, my largest donations have been to the X Prize Foundation and to our longevity, our health span prize, and also to Dean Kamen at First Robotics, and also to David. Tony Robbins and I donated $250,000 early on to support David's work. So this idea of Friends of Sinclair Lab, if you want to join me at a 50K or greater level, send an email to, let's see, I'm going to spell it out here, Friends of Sinclair Lab. So FOSL@diamandis.com. My team will auto-respond to that, get some information about you. Please don't use it as a email to communicate with me or David. That's not what its purpose is. If you're serious about this, go ahead and send an email there with your contact details, and we'll respond. And what we talked about for those who join the Friends of Sinclair Lab, let's see what we said. Number one, we'll do a quarterly Zoom. I expect this will be a group of 10, 12, hopefully 20 people that we'll spend some time with. You'll do personal Q&A with them. And we'll set up a dinner either at the Abundance Summit in March of every year in LA, or we'll set up a dinner at the Platinum, our Abundance Platinum longevity trip. Sound good?
So far, yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's other things.
Okay, what else?
Well, I think that the friends who get to know me personally, like you have, we do spin out companies. There's these age reversal chemicals are going to be spun out soon.
They'll be huge.
Cosmetic, hair, skin. So Friends of the Sinclair Lab will have first right on
early knowledge and a chance to
get in
as a seed investor.
Share with me in that. Yeah. I also think I've been lucky enough to have spin outs myself, so I'll also put in my $50,000. So we've got $100,000 so far, guys. So let's do it, because the future's too important to not let it happen in our lifetime. Yeah,
agreed. I mean, we hold two different futures in superposition, and we have to choose which one we want.
Yeah, let's not be in the universe where, things don't happen. Let's make us, get us into that universe where we're just thriving as a species.
I love that. So please join me. Please join David. It'll be a blast. I'll get a chance to spend more time with you. I mean, this is a subject that just, gives me such incredible hope, right? This is the most exciting time ever to be alive. And if you want more of it, we're going to make it happen right here, right now. All right. And can't wait to see who joins us on the Bitcoin, crypto, and universe. So,
well, I just want to make a comment about crypto in general. I think we're in a new world. We have a currency that will exist for thousands of years, and it's only going to go up. But first of all, I want to talk about the people that own crypto, the ones that I know, and Brian Armstrong is one of them, that they have the power to do big things, and they can come together as a community by either funding things or giving incentives to people to achieve greatness.
Yeah.
The other thing is, think about this, that the currency is only going to go up, and the longer you live, the more you're going to make. But in general, I think that especially when it comes to Bitcoin, I think the people that own Bitcoin can really do great things with that. It's an amazing currency. I own some myself as well, which is what I'm going to use to donate here.
And I've seen this incredible correlation between people who love longevity and people who love Bitcoin. For me, Bitcoin and Ethereum are my largest assets more than anything else. And I do believe that we're going to have a world where, as we're living, past 100, maybe hundreds of years, having some asset that doesn't like just vaporize and get taxed away to nothing is super important.
Yeah, well, what's the killer of longevity assets? It's inflation.
Yeah.
And so the cryptocurrency is a way to avoid that. And it's only going to go up. We can live 1,000 years, we can go to other planets, and we can own crypto. That's the future.
And we all have that one thing in common right now, aging as a disease and a common biology to solve.
We do. We'll stay healthy for longer, but ultimately we have to be able to reverse aging if we're going to make it for a long time. So while we work on it, let's stay healthy, but then let's just fund these research projects and make the future a reality.
Yeah. David, I want to talk about another area, and then we're going to go to AMA questions. We have I put out, a tweet. I'm going to meet with David. What questions do you have? So we picked, the top 20 or so that were provocative and fun. But before we go there, I want to talk about what your longevity protocols are. So what are you doing? I mean, honestly, you look great, dude. And I appreciate the fact that you're a poster child for this industry.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah. I went online or at least my team did, and found something published at nad.com. I'm not sure how real it is, because I don't think they probably put it together from conversations you've had. I'll put the link in the show notes as well for folks if they want to see at least what was reported. But let's run through these and tell me what's real, what's not real. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
you want to see the list here?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And what's the main thing? I mean, there's a laundry list here, and I take like 80 supplements and meds a day.
Yeah. Well, I do advise people on their longevity so that they get an insider look, but I'm happy to share some of the key things for everybody. I'm still on the standard stuff that was in it's become standard.
In Lifespan.
It wasn't standard when I published Lifespan, but now it's become, NMN has become $1 billion industry now.
Amazing.
So
it's really honestly, due to you. And just to clarify things, you're not backing any of these supplement companies. In fact, they use your name and their likeness without your permission.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. My lawyers spend a fair amount of time and my money on stopping that, but new companies pop up all the time, especially overseas. But yeah, I don't currently sell anything. So the main things are, so let's start with the basics.
Yeah.
Do what you do. So there's the saunas, there's the exercise. Weightlifting is important, especially for men, or Pilates for women, a bit of weightlifting. And then eating is important too. Serena is a trained nutritionist and chef and longevity expert. She came in and changed my life 4 years ago. I stopped eating a lot of meat.
Have you gone vegan completely?
No.
90%? What would you say?
I'd say it's 90, 95.
Yeah.
I eat out, and sometimes I break the rules for celebration purposes, but I want to enjoy life.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely plant focused. And a few things happened when I switched to plants as my main diet. I felt better. I could eat more, which was great because I love food.
Yeah.
And my mind cleared. And that might have also been because I gave up alcohol almost all of it.
Yeah, so just another point, I have given up alcohol except for, on a celebration.
Yeah. Did you notice the difference?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so sensitive to alcohol, it just makes me sleepy. And, weight gain if I'm drinking too much. But I used to have like a little bit of wine. Now I'll taste some wine. Tonight is an exception. My deputy family, the Reese family, is having the bar mitzvah of their son. And so my friend is like, I've got the best bottles of wine. So I was like, okay, I'm going to drink a glass of wine tonight.
Good. Well, you look like you're looking after your weight really well. So
I am.
I think you've never looked so good. But in terms of weight, gaining weight is a bad thing. It puts our bodies into abundance mode. I've talked before about abundance mode versus adversity mode. Mm-hmm. We can have abundance mode occasionally. You can eat a steak, you can eat a lot of food, but for the majority of the time, you want to be in adversity mode. So that's why I try not to eat more than 2 meals a day if I can, sometimes 1. And the plants help because the plants send a signal also to the body. They're filled with polyphenols that also give the signal of adversity.